Welcome to On the Run with Jess and Tom. Hey,
This is Jessica Sagar.
are you eating?
Sorry.
What is
Yeah,
it?
oh my god.
What are these?
This is so good. These are Peruvian empanadas,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they have lomo saltado inside. So they
Mhm.
have steak
Dig it.
and they have onions. Oh my god, this is so good. Hmm. Try one. Hmm. I thought I gave you one. How do you like it? So good, right?
Mhm.
So good. And I got them from Sweets by Lou, and they're really good.
Mhm.
I really love them.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to order them, I think
Tan
they're I think
delicioso.
I think they're the best lomo saltado empanadas I've had here in Long Island. 631
Oh,
278 1457.
that was awkward.
631 278 1457. Sweets by Lou. Wow.
Really good.
These are really amazing. And I'm sorry, I didn't know we were starting already. I just came from my other job and I was starving. So, huh?
Yeah, I mean, why not eat right here in your studio? Makes sense.
Why not? Oh my God, it's so
Yep.
good.
Charge.
You guys got to try this.
Pretty good.
Hmm. So what's on the agenda for today?
Person very close to me wrote something I'd like to discuss.
Who's that
And
person?
I'm not sure if you're aware of her. Healer, fine woman named Jessica Taggart. And so, yeah, I wanted to talk about In Tune. You know, this is something that pre-existed my knowledge of you, or at least to the point that I knew you personally. And I think it's really good content, and I wanted to go through some of it. I think there's a lot in there for everybody. Why don't you, for I guess, explain what it is before we get into it, so
Yeah.
people are
So
aware.
I actually wrote this little booklet and I made it like an online magazine
Just keep talking.
format.
Keep talking.
And it was, um, I guess at that point in my life, I had kind of figured out what my purpose,
When did you write this?
2022. I kind of figured out what my purpose in life was going to be, right? And I feel like I didn't know how, but I knew that I wanted to help people and I wanted to do something meaningful for our community, right? And so I was already putting videos out there about, healing, about self development, about things like that. And every time I read something, I would say something, right? And people would start like messaging me and saying, I like what you're saying, I like the things you're talking about. And one day I was knitting a blanket made by hand, and the director for this nonprofit organization calls me and she's like, are you interested in teaching a knitting class? And I'm like, sure, but and she said, I want to talk to you about what the knitting class is all about. So I went for the interview and she told me that it was it was a class, it was pretty much a support group where we use knitting as a tool to cope with negative emotions, and it was meant for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Got it.
And I was like, wow, this is crazy, because one of the things I really wanted to do and I was already working on was on my own development, my own healing. So I was like, this is such an amazing opportunity. And I feel like during that period, I guess when COVID started, I started kind of getting in tune with what my heart desires were, because I guess we had more time to actually go inwards and think
Yeah.
about the things that really matter in life.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be an amazing thing if I can touch somebody's heart, and I would just start putting stuff out there. And I thought to myself, if I can touch just one person with what I'm doing, with what I'm saying, if I can make a little change. And I saw, the response. So by her seeing my, the things that I was doing was
And
like,
how did she find them? She found them online?
yeah, well, we were friends on Facebook, so
Hmm.
she saw it there.
Got it.
And so I started my journey working as a healing coordinator, creating these workshops, and really that hit home for me,
Yeah.
I was, and what I always say is, in the pursuit of looking for many ways to help them, I found more ways to help myself,
Got it.
right? So in the pursuit to help him to heal, I really started healing myself. So, and then I realized that I was so open to these opportunities, right? I was so envisioning myself helping other people, envisioning myself talking to other people. The opportunity presented itself. And this project took a life of its own,
Hmm.
you know? And we created the program together. I wrote the curriculum. I started recording meditations, and then listening to myself saying these meditations was another powerful tool too. So I just realized that my heart was, I was synchronizing my heart melody from, I guess, the beginning of COVID. And I was like, you know, what I'm doing right now at this moment is not what my heart is in,
Got it.
you know? So I realized that when you actually synchronize your heart melody, you really, and you get in tune with that, right? With your desires, with your deep desires, you
Well, is that,
start.
so is that how you came up with the title In Tune?
Yeah.
Got it.
And then you start seeing that your purpose comes to pass, comes to a reality. And that was it for me. So I wanted to share with the rest of the world,
Cool.
what are the things that you really need to do so you can get in sync with your heart. You can get into the same frequency,
Got
I
it.
should say, right? And another thing that was very compelling for me in my life was what happened to my father growing up, right? So he was 39 years old when he suffered a nervous breakdown. And he was a sheriff wherever we went. He was an authority. I always saw him as a person of power, right? When he had a nervous breakdown, it was like the end of him because his health deteriorated from that year until the day he passed, and it was 9 years of seeing him going through that, and for me, I was like,
And
how
you
can
said how old were you at that time? You were nine too? You were also
when
9 years
my
old?
father got sick, I was 10, and then when
Okay.
my father passed
Got it.
away, I was 19.
Wow, that's a
But that was
critical time period.
it was very, I guess it was a big, big, big mark,
Oh yeah.
because my whole life I was like, how can I just not lose control? How can I stay in control of my mind? Because I was, I was growing up, and in my mind, I knew it all, right? Like we all teenagers do. So I would tell my father, you need to get out of that hole. Just get out.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just think about something else and get out. But it was too late because it became a chemical imbalance. But that really compelled me to try to stay in control. But I didn't really have the tools.
Yeah.
I feel
Hmm.
like now I have more tools to be able to stay in control of my mind and to stay in control of my emotions, right? And to be able to process them. This is why I wrote 11 things that I feel that are vital,
Hmm.
in order for you to make that switch and to actually get in tune and
Got it.
find your purpose,
All right.
right?
So that said, I mean, obviously this was your inspiration for pursuit of mental well-being, caring for the.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, stay in control, synchronize your heart symphony,
Well,
right?
I mean, we're getting into it. What about for
And
someone who's like not musical like me? What do I do?
you are musical. And then you'll see your purpose unfold.
Got it.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. So
So,
why don't we go through 'em? Let me see. So I was looking through them.
mhm.
I mean, I'm always looking at your stuff when you're not around. So I thought this was pretty cool. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, they have application in so many other areas, and I think that My favorite is number 11, as a matter of fact, and it says the present moment does not return. Live with it with intention, and do not waste it trying to decipher or criticize other people's lives. Here and now, we have a lot to do for ourselves, a lot to improve, and a lot to learn. Dedicate your words, your criticisms, and your energies to improve your life. Thus, you will affect those around you in a positive way. Your opinion is only valuable for those who ask for it or for the one who needs it. And so I think this is so powerful and so pertinent to culture today, right? I mean, we engage privately and publicly in criticism of situations we know nothing about, of people we know nothing about. We know nothing about their stories. And even socially, something happens and we're immediately ready to, like, stomp on somebody for something they might have went through. And I can say for myself that I've spent a lot of time in my past, excuse me, being critical of things, rather than taking a look and seeing, where I could benefit from some fixing,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think that's, especially, I mean, I don't want to, criticize my people, but like as New Yorkers, like we love to complain and we love to be critical, and it's almost cultural, and I don't take the onus off of me by saying that. I mean, clearly, it's a culture thing, but it comes down to ultimately how you feel about yourself, and so if you're not feeling great about you, one of the human beings' favorite tool is to call out something that they perceive to be terrible about somebody else, and so I think that, citing our limited lifespan here, that, yeah, using this cherished time, this valuable gift of time that we have to continue to kind of scrape the layers off ourselves and develop ourselves and become the best version of us, rather than trying to compare ourselves to the worst version of somebody else, is a much better way to invest the time. And this is very wise.
Yeah,
So
and
I really liked it.
it's funny that you mentioned that. I had a client I was working with today, and we were actually talking about that, right? And I said, people's actions are not a reflection on you and who you are.
Right.
People's actions and comments are a reflection of who they are and
Amen.
what they are lacking,
Right on.
right?
Yep.
And she got so excited, and I'm like, your value,
Cool.
roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And another thing that I added to um well, that became number 10 on the edited version.
Mm-hmm.
The
Oh,
what
so
I
we're looking at a galley, a draft.
what I added to that number 11, which became number 10, was let go of the heavy load of limitations, labels, and old unhealthy patterns adapted or assigned to you by life circumstances or the outer world, which is not you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Let go of the things you cannot control, like the past and the future. The present moment does not return.
Right on.
And that's when we
Well
start,
said.
like, like
Yep.
a lot of us get hung on the past and our mistakes, and we just don't move forward,
But
right?
yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. And so I find that is such a difficult thing, right? Because, I mean, the past is a valuable tool. It's undeniably a valuable tool in the present. And so, you almost, if you're working with the cure, you can't help but pay attention to the injury, right? Like there's no way to not do that. I think to use that, though, as an excuse of maybe why you're not, you know, going forward, is really where the issue is. But I mean, you gotta, I know the past is really important. You definitely don't want to stay there. We know that. You don't want to be there. You want to be
It's your
here.
manual, it's your guide,
Yeah, for sure.
kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually did my first TikTok live today, and I was talking about that, right? We revisit the past just to identify where our limitations come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's important. We
Yeah.
want to identify where our limitations were born, so we can give it a new meaning as conscious people that we are now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
go back, we are able to rewrite, we are able to consciously say, it wasn't your fault, you know? You will be okay.
That sounds like a quantum meditation to me.
Yes.
Thanks, James McNeil.
Yes. So we have the power to revisit, rewrite, and reformat. right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Sure.
story.
With new information. Yeah.
Yeah, with new information. So, and this is something I always say, like, if you're gonna visit the past to bring what's positive first, right? And then second, to bring the lessons from the things that weren't so positive, but don't get hung up on the
Yeah.
negative,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So the negative stuff, definitely we need to cut off. We just rescue the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like being grateful for those lessons, being grateful for that people, even the people that hurt you, because they make you grow in a way. Your
Oh yeah.
soul continues to
Always. Mm-hmm.
develop, to evolve, right?
Yep.
Because of those experiences. So I feel like that was the point on that.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll go for another one, which is a personal one for me. Don't look for others to validate or approve your dreams. You and only you know what your value and your story is. You and only you have the right to validate and approve your dreams. P.S. Your creator has signed off on this already. He makes no mistakes. His creation was made to perfection. Do not insult him believing otherwise. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's definitely a much more complete statement. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
again, I grew up in a pretty authoritarian environment. My father was the clear, you know, law keeper and lawmaker in the home. He was also a police officer. I know you mentioned your dad was the sheriff. And so, the rule of law was the rule of law, and we were to follow that,
You were there to
and
obey.
just got into, um, a mindset of obedience and am I, can I, may I, please, and those are great, right? We taught manners as kids, and I don't know if that still happens today, but I thought that was a great part of our upbringing. But it came to the point where as a younger person, I was a real rule follower. I still am in some degree. And so, I'd always ask permission for stuff. Now, granted, I didn't always listen when I didn't get permission, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
like, no, I'm doing this anyway, but I at least sought permission. And so, that followed me into my adolescence, into my adult life. And you began to look for permission from everyone, from your social group, from your teachers, from whoever it is that has kind of authority in your life in some way or another. And so, like, I find that as a struggle even now to give myself permission to be the me I feel I am, And so it's really a constant and a conscious effort to remind myself that I don't need to seek the approval of other people. And again, it's not conscious. It's not like, hey,
Right.
do you like this shirt or do whatever. But I think you just, you put yourself in a position of subservience in a way. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, those limitations live in our subconscious mind,
Hmm.
and we know that, right? And when we identify them, you might not be looking for permission, you do it anyway, but you still need the validation.
Yeah,
And without the validation, you don't, it's like it's not valid. What you're
yeah.
doing is not valid, so it doesn't count, kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Sure, sure.
So I feel like even if we do, we still, like, if we had that lack of validation growing up, we still feel like we need it. We still feel like we need to look for it, right? But then if you recognize that you were lacking of validation, then I think all the work we need to do is here, right? We need to validate
Of
ourselves.
course, yeah,
We
sure.
need to first look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you are enough. You are valuable. You are already successful. You already have everything you need to become the person were born to be.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like this is a repetition. It has to be repeated every single
Yeah.
day,
Hmm.
every single moment.
Hmm.
Every time you feel like one of those limitations is coming to mind, you're like, no,
Yeah.
you're enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had
Hmm.
that, like, my whole life. I never felt like I was enough. I was always limiting myself because of the way I look, because of my accent, because where I came from.
You're a terrible looking person, by the way. Appalling.
So it was tough. I was really tough on myself. I was
Yeah.
really tough on my projects. I was really tough on my goals, because I
Yeah.
I really limited myself. And now I'm like, even when that feeling of inadequacy comes, or that feeling of rejection comes. I'm like, that's not on me.
Yeah.
That's not on me. And I just keep pushing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be. This is one of our like creative differences all the time. I do think you need to be, lovingly critical of your work. You do. To me, that's the only way you will get the best out of yourself. Right? Is to be lovingly critical.
Yeah, yeah,
That I just inserted lovingly like 40 seconds ago because normally I would have just said critical.
yeah.
But it is with the sense of it's constructive criticism towards yourself, which we all have heard about that all the time. In class, it was like, well, it's constructive criticism. You have to be able to take that, but you need to also be able to give it to yourself and take it to yourself, and get a better product out of it.
Yeah, I
You know?
mean, but how do you get a better product? How do you get to that place? By making mistakes, by
Yeah.
putting yourself
Yes.
out there and
Yes.
trying,
Yes. Yes.
trying,
Yeah.
trying, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So we're not going to be polished. We're not
Yeah.
polished yet. We're putting ourselves out there and we're learning from this.
Yeah.
Every time we do something new, we put something new out. We're like, okay, I could have done this better. And I feel like every time we do something, it just becomes a little better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
Like,
hmm
and that's the goal in life. If you
Yeah.
can try to be just a tiny bit better every single day,
Yeah.
how much better, like if you start January 1st, right, as a resolution, how much
Which
better
is,
you'll be
by the way,
365 times better than the first day of the year at the end of the year,
is
right?
that compounded better? Because that would be exponentially even higher than 365. And so, yeah, I think listen, everybody's got a first day. Everybody's an amateur, right? And I used to tell my kids that like everybody starts out not knowing, and so now I like to look at what's not missing and celebrate what's not missing. Like, hey, we did that really well, and we can even be there with some of the stuff we do. We listen to it after, and we'll be like, I don't know, that could have been, that could have been. Instead of saying, hey, that was great, or that was a good point, or that. So, it's an important part. So self criticism, I think, is important. I think being lovingly, critical is important to you and others
Yeah.
that want it, that ask for it. I think you mentioned that somewhere else there, in one of the others. And so, yeah, it's an important thing.
Yeah, I feel like when you start, and sometimes when you see yourself, like if you were your own son or your own daughter, you'll be like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't that great, but you are born for this because you feel it in your heart. You
Yeah,
have that fire,
yeah. Except
right?
if my mom or dad said maybe it wasn't that great, I would just never try it again.
Right. But like, no, you wouldn't tell your son it wasn't that great, but
Never.
you would tell your
Nope.
son, listen, keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep trying. I think you have a future on this, right? If it's burning inside of you and you want to get it out, it's there,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
So you need to encourage yourself, like if you were your own father, or
Yeah.
your own mother.
Yeah.
So yeah, and being critical of yourself, of course, lovingly, compassionately, right?
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. Is
Cool.
there any other one that resonates with
There's a
you?
bunch. Yeah. I mean, I had a really good time going through this
Well,
stuff.
here are the other ones that were
Okay, cool. Yeah, just to go what we have what I'd made notes on when I was going through it. Oh, setting boundaries. Love yourself. Not breaking the promises you make yourself is the first step towards loving oneself. Setting healthy boundaries follows. Sometimes it's necessary to say no, and that's okay. This will help you learn the value of your time and your contribution. Become your best ally. Be compassionate with your processes and allow yourself to feel your emotions. Putting yourself first is not selfish. Put on the oxygen mask first. If you are well, you'll be able to assist those who need you, and you'll see everything around you flow. Yeah, and so I love boundaries. I love boundaries, and I love saying no. I think it's really important. Uh, we know this already about each other. I mean, I'm a giver by nature, and you know, you run out a month when you say yes to everything. You just run out a month, and it's likely most of those situations are not getting your best anyway when you're saying yes to everything. And then, God forbid you can't fulfill one of those commitments or something. Now you feel bad, right? Now you've taken on a negative a negative feeling for what began as a really positive attempt, and so I have grown in my hesitant I'm hesitant to call it maturity, but I have grown in the fact when I will just say no if it's not, you can't be pulled in a bunch of directions. If I have a commitment, I intend to keep the first commitment I make. I don't if someone else called you that same period of time. If it's something that's going to derail the first situation, I'm going to say, you know what, I'd be happy to help you some other time, or I can't get to that right now, or whatever. And I feel like again, like you mentioned, you learn the value of your time. It's really important that other people learn that you value your time too, and it helps all around with, setting up a healthy interaction and also giving yourself the other time to curate your own feelings, your own desires, to make sure that you're doing, one of your others, which is working on you, spending time with you, loving yourself first, um, and kind of taking your own trash out before you're running up and down the block trying to help
Yeah.
everybody. And so
That was
I love me some boundaries.
that was a tough lesson for me to learn because um I was always trying to run away from my emotions. I didn't know how to be still with my emotions.
Hmm.
So that was one of my ways of dissociating from what I was feeling.
I think I went through that too,
Yeah,
and I wouldn't
so
say that I was
I was
knowingly running
yeah,
away, but I had a full dance card, you
yeah.
know?
So I would be a people pleaser just because also I was always looking for validation, right?
Hmm.
Because I never gave
Sure.
myself that validation.
Right.
So I was always, available for whoever needed me,
Yeah.
and I would book myself for all the parties in the same day. And well, I still try to be there for the people who are important to me, and show up even if I go for like 20 minutes just to say that I really care, but I don't drive myself as crazy as I used to. And I know, that the people that really love you will understand.
Yeah, but they'd also understand that if you couldn't make it, right?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
that's actually how I look at it. And again, you know me, I mean, I like to honor the people that are in my life and all that kind of stuff, and we share that, I think. But I've also come to a place where I say, I don't have a lot of close friends. I had a much bigger group of friends as a younger person. My group of friends is much smaller now, and in fact, incredibly so. But I know that those people that are my friends that really love me are not hurt or upset if I can't make their party. What an invitation says to me is, I'm having this experience, and I care for you, so I'd love for you to share it with me. But the experience is going on. Even if you can't participate, that experience will be going on. And so when I feel like that's the mindset, then you're free to say, hey, I can make that or I can't make that, and it's not going to interfere with the relationship. Rather than, hey, I'm taking a head count of who my friends are and who they aren't, and if you don't make it, it's going to really affect how we treat each other. That's a relationship I want to get out of ASAP. ASAP. Okay. Anyway,
All
great.
right.
Let's let's
Okay.
let's switch the frequency on that one. Let's get off of that topic.
So we can go to the next one.
What is the next one? Yeah. So we have here, success is well. Why don't you tell me?
Well, I feel like to me, success is not just money richness. It's not
Of
just
course.
having it, not just having all the material things. I feel like we have succeed when we actually believe in ourselves with all our might. And when we do, everything comes by default. Everything
Yeah.
falls on you,
And
like all the greatest things come
in
to
fact,
you.
I don't think it's got anything to do with material things, and that's one of, again, like the mistakes where I think as a species we've tried to identify, like, how do we measure something? Well, you've collected the most things, so that means that you've had success, and I just think it's the wrong game. That's true, but you can't, you're not hitting a home run in football because it's a different game. And so I just feel like it's got zero. We know that, right? As we're getting older, we find that success is the ability to decide how we spend our time and with whom. Um, and it's got zero to do with material wealth. For me at this point, I mean, I think we saw that as kids because we grew up in a lack. place, and so it was like, well, those people have those things, and so they must be what we want to be, or that must be what
That
what
must
it
be
looks like,
success,
right?
right?
That must be what it looks like, yeah. And so, okay, yeah. So that I think you've covered that point. I don't think I belabor that either. Um, take time to cultivate your gifts and give your mind a break.
Yeah. That's really big, and that's a thing that we really need to believe too, because a lot of people, and I have encountered a lot of people in my life that believe they don't have any talent, and I am so convinced that each one of us has a talent, has a gift that, God
Sure,
has
of
given
course,
us something
yeah,
to
many
give
things.
to this world, right? If not many things, right? So if you have something you feel called to do, something that, like I said before, sparks your heart, cultivate that gift, cultivate that talent, and give it your all. Yeah, give it, give everything you can to that gift, right? So, and the other thing about giving your mind a break, of course, mindfulness, learn how to control those negative thoughts, give yourself a break just to breathe.
Or even understand how you actually feel about things. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's
stillness
another
is
really
so
important thing. Sure.
is so important in this crazy world. I feel like if you can take 15 minutes a day just to sit in stillness and be with, just
Should you
be
check
with.
Instagram while you're doing that?
Mm?
Should you check
No,
Instagram, Twitter,
no,
any of
no,
the
no
platform X? I'm sorry,
distractions.
X.
No
Oh,
distractions. Just you and that divine source of whatever it is that you believe. You just feel it, be with it, right? And don't feed your mind anymore. And let your thoughts just pass by like little clouds. Breathe and be present.
and
Allow
that's one of
yourself.
the things that you do though in your practice, right? Because
Yeah,
I can tell you, for me, we've talked about this on other episodes. And quieting of the mind is so difficult. It's for me personally, it's very very difficult to find stillness, and I do it. We spent time with it with a new friend of ours in the last couple of days, and he had mentioned how much he enjoys being in the car and driving by himself. And so I remember when I used to drive back and forth to Florida quite a bit. Yeah, that was my time. I'd be in the car for myself 17, 18 hours by myself, playing whatever music I like, or singing to the radio, vocalizing, doing whatever. But there was never a time where I felt a more consistent stream of consciousness and connectivity, to other things. And I think, I almost needed it at that time to kind of pass from one one state to another, a mental state. I mean, not a geographic state. And so I totally get that. And I feel like, it's funny. I don't do as much of that anymore. But my last position was relatively close. It was like a 16-minute commute either way, and so you're in and out of the fire, each direction. And I kind of, as much as I dreaded the longer drives I had earlier in my career, there was something good about them. I
yeah,
had another position at one time too, where I was working all over the state offices in Florida, and so I drive into the different counties regularly, and so I spent a lot of time every work week on the road, and it was just like I felt better. That
yeah.
I really did.
I feel like for those of you who haven't found a way to kind of ease your mind and take a break and quiet the monkey mind, I feel like what he proposed, because this is what he does, he has a busy mind. So what he does is he meditates on ideas, but he focuses on one idea at a time, right? Which is great, because if you can keep your mind quiet, but you focus on one idea and you meditate on the idea and you meditate on why you're having this idea, where is this coming from?
So
Is really going somewhere? Do I really want to go here? Do
yeah,
I really want to do this? How do I want to do this? How who's coming with me to create this idea,
and
right?
and you do all that in your head.
You do that all you planning on your
So
head.
all right, so
Yeah.
what is, give me, I mean, what's a tip? How can I and our audience get into that state? How can we be better at
Well,
doing
I
that?
feel like, and that only came to me because you said it's hard for you to shut down your mind. And
100%.
this morning, our friend who just left said that he was going to use the 10-hour drive to meditate on our meetings, to meditate on the presentation he did, to meditate on how people react to these new ideas, right? So I feel like, if you know, okay, this is my project, right? And it has these little parts of my project. So I'm going to start meditating on how do I present this to people and what's the reaction, right? So I'm going to think about, what did I do that I could do different? What can I deliver? What was I missing in my delivery, kind of thing, you
Hmm.
know? So you start meditating on, okay, so how was this helpful for the people I'm serving? How was this helpful for me in my growing, right? And I feel like, and when you are connected to God, or the source, you meditate. It's almost like a dance, right? You meditate, but at the same time you're asking for answers, you know, and you try to, like, bring him into the whole mix, right?
Him being the
Him,
source of
the
creation.
source of creation, God,
Yep,
right?
I call him God.
God, yeah. So you try to call him in for wisdom,
Hmm.
you know, and I feel like when you find that connection, you really find the answers. When you give yourself the time to sit in stillness with your ideas, and don't give mind to what's not relevant, because we do that too much.
Very difficult.
We do that too much, you know, not relevant thoughts, not relevant conversations, not relevant, um anything, you know. We do so much of that.
Hmm.
So if we prioritize what we are going to let our mind focus on, I feel like that's meditating. Sit with it, right? Sit with your idea. Brainstorm your idea, but that idea, and let the other thoughts take a break.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Any other point that you wanted to
Um,
discuss?
no, I mean, I think that we've hit mostly on them. Um, I think you've added clarity to this.
Yeah, I feel, well, gratitude is one of the things I think that was the thing I started with. Gratitude and removing toxic people and toxicity. Sometimes I wish I had like a magic wand and I can heal all broken hearts, you know, because broken people are the ones who become toxic,
Sure.
you know, and
Hmm.
and you only stay in that place of shadows because you're not willing to see your light, and maybe you're not ready to see your light yet, right? So when they're not ready, you cannot push them to see their light, right? And you cannot be the remedy either, because that's painful, you know.
Yeah,
So
it's not your job to be the remedy
yeah,
at
so
all.
it is, you know, out of love for yourself and your growth and the ones you love that surround you, that you need to let go of that,
So
you
what
know?
happens? So wait, you touched on this interesting thing. So what happens when a toxic person is someone you love, perhaps a family member or someone close to you? How do you deal with that?
Well, I feel like you can give them all the advice you want and
Well,
everything,
they may
you
not
know?
even be asking for it though.
Well,
Like what if they're just
if they're not asking for
difficult to
it,
deal
then
with?
yeah, I mean, there you can love people, but you don't need to have conversations all day every day with
Hmm.
those people, right?
Right, of course.
I mean, you can send loving messages. I love you. I hope you have a great day today, and that's
And
it.
then ghost them right after.
Well, not ghost
That's
them, but
cool. Yeah,
you
ghosting
know,
works.
they're like,
Dot dot dot. You
I'm
know what
gonna
I mean?
give I'm gonna give an example, right? I had a friendship that she'll look for me just to complain, just to excuse herself from things that she has done, and people are pointing fingers at her, and she wouldn't wanted to go back to the story and the drama, the story and the drama, the story and the drama. And I'm like, okay, I love you. I'm here for you. I'm not here for the drama. I don't want to hear it, because that's too much for me to handle. And that was it. I love you. I'm here for you. I can help you if you let me help you, cope with the emotions that you're feeling right now, but I don't want to hear the stories.
Got it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I
I
guess
feel
that's
that
it.
about like 90% of stories, just so you know. I'm like, yeah, no, no, thank you.
And gratitude. I mean, really,
Gratitude's the attitude of altitude.
when you are grateful for the little things that you already have, and you're not so focused on the things that you don't have and you really want, or everybody else has and you don't have. I mean, life is just paradise.
Who are you grateful to?
God,
Oh, I
you
thought
know,
so.
I am so great, like every single day, and even when things are not going right, I'm still grateful because I am alive, you know, and I know that e- every opportunity I have to open my eyes and breathe, I can make it better.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited about life. I love life. I love people, but I've learned to love myself a little better. So I want to share. I wanted to
Great,
share.
great. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, does that wrap it up?
I think that's a
To
wrap
the end of the
up.
On the Run with Jess and Tom Empanada Edition.
Oh my God. You guys
Muy
have to try
rico.
this. I'm going to shove it all in my mouth as soon as we're done.
Fantastic. Yeah. hmm
Thank you
All
for
right,
tuning
everybody.
in. And well, if you want to read the whole little booklet, is up on our blog post, and just check our website on the run with jessandtom.com, and you'll see the list of all the podcasts, all the not the podcasts, but the blog posts
hmm
on the bottom of the whole website.
Okay.
Yes.
See you later.